I did just want to say, thank you for inviting me. Really happy to be here and excited to share a little bit of what I've learned teaching full time for the Power P exam over this last decade. So I did want to thank you to Tyler for the invitation. So with that, we'll go ahead. We'll get started. I like to call this type of webinar How to Pass the NCEES PE exam. We'll be talking about everything from proven strategies to pass, what makes passing the PE exam so difficult, and of course, how we can help. Hey, Weston, how you doing? Weston, tuning in from the Lake Charles office. All right, so today we're going to be talking about first, if you don't know who I am, I'm going to give you my 10-second introduction. After that, we'll talk about why pass the PE exam. We'll talk about what makes passing the PE exam so difficult, especially for the electrical power PE exam. I assume most of you are going to be taking the power exam. I'm going to be sharing with you proven strategies to pass. These are strategies we've developed, again, over 10 years now, so over a decade doing this full time. Talk about more about how I can help. And we'll close off today. Those of you that are interested in getting started, a lot of free resources where you can get started right away for free. And then afterwards, we'll talk about what happens after you pass the PE exam. What's next? And at the very end, we'll also have an open Q&A for anyone with questions. All right, so 10-second introduction, who I am. My name is Zach Stone, PE. I'm a professional licensed engineer in the state of Florida. I've got an ABET accredited Bachelor's of Science and Electrical Engineering degree. I passed both the FE and PE exam on the first try. I know most of you are probably involved in substation projects. I was checking out your company's website prior to the start. My background comes from the industrial world, hard hat, steel-toed boots, heavy flame retardant, high-vis clothing. I always like to say everything I learned about electrical engineering, I learned sweating under the Florida sun. So, everything from industrial automation, motor control, power generation, a little bit of substations, but at the 69 kV level. So I'm sure you guys are probably dealing with much higher voltage substation, but just about everything on the P exam I have direct hands-on experience with. I really enjoy math, especially the math behind electrical engineering. My passion is getting to share it with all of you, right? Sharing all of these neat tricks and tips that I've learned that applies directly to time-saving techniques on the PE exam. I've been primarily focused on this role since 2014, so we just hit a decade. Really happy about that. A couple of different places you can find me. You can find me at LinkedIn, ZA Stone. You can find me at electricalpereview.com. That's our online class for the Power PE exam. You can find me at electricalfereview.com for anyone that needs to take the FE exam first. We brand it as a 100% free forever online review course for the FE exam. We're getting ready to offer live classes in communications, circuits, and digital circuits. And all of the recordings are posted on the FE review course, all for free. You can find me our latest project, ohmgurus.com. That's our continuing education platform. We'll talk a little bit about that at the end. And then the largest online community for electrical engineers taking the PE exam. You can find me at powerpehelp.com. This is typically where I hang out during the day, answering questions from not just our students, but really anyone that's looking for help with the PE exam. Got a really large, ever-growing career and networking community on there too as well. I encourage everyone to check out this online community when we're done here today. All right, who's in the room? So we'll answer these questions one at a time. Who here is an electrical engineer? I'm assuming that's going to be most of you. Feel free to answer in the chat, or you can pop in with your microphone or camera as well. But yeah, I'm assuming I'm talking to mostly electrical power engineers. And if not, are there any non-electrical engineers? So I'm seeing a lot of hands raised. Good. Any mechanicals? Always curious. It seems like a growing trend, especially in utilities. A lot of mechanical engineers are transitioning over to the dark side, to power. Are there any engineers that are already licensed? Maybe you are licensed in mechanical or a different discipline. Maybe you're licensed in electrical and you're just hanging out for today's webinar. Couple of hand raises. Most important question number three. Is anyone here taking the PE exam before? Is anyone here already taken the PE exam? Show of hands, or you can answer in the chat. I see, looks like Matthew raised his hand. And who here then is getting ready to take the PE exam for the first time? Question number four. I expect, yeah, a lot of hand raises. Great. All right, so everyone knows the P exam is difficult, and we're going to talk about exactly why that is and what makes it difficult. But before we do, I always like to start with our why. If anyone here is familiar with Simon Sinek, he's essentially a corporate motivational speaker, but he always really encourages you to start with your why. Motivation and discipline is going to come and go. You can think of your why kind of like the light at the end of the tunnel gets us through that sacrifice. So I'm going to read a few of some of the more common whys that I hear. I'll tell you which one was mine when I was taking the PE exam back in 2014. But I'm curious to hear from each of you. So it looks like Weston. Weston's the only one that's found the chat. Really curious. Answer in the chat. Why do you want to pass the PE exam while I read off some of the more common ones? No right or wrong answers, and then I'll look to read any interesting ones that come in. But first one I hear the most of is professional credibility and professional licensure. Everyone wants to add PE to their email signature. They want to add PE to their LinkedIn profile. Authority to stamp and seal construction documents. This mostly applies to the MEP world, building construction, but I would assume that you guys probably also do that for a lot of your substation projects as well. Career advancement, huge, right? Promotions, raises, maybe you want to climb the corporate ladder. This was my why right here is increased earnings. You're looking at higher salary, maybe a bigger bonus, sometimes linked to things like pensions or increased retirement account contributions. Job security, increased employment opportunities, huge, right? A lot of the recruiters come knocking when you're a professional engineer. I worked in a role where we were constantly hiring entry-level grads out of college, and anyone with experience within that, I would say the first 1 to 6 years out of college, anytime we saw PE next to that name in the resume stack, that resume always came to the top. So that's a big one as well. And then last one, professional development and learning opportunity. I would say this tends to surprise engineers the most. After passing the P exam, uh, you're going to learn an incredible amount of electrical engineering in a really condensed time frame. You're gonna learn more than you thought possible in a short amount of time, and that amount of professional development really carries with you for the rest of your career, especially when you're talking to engineers in slightly different roles that's outside of your specialty. Maybe you're a substation metering guy, but you're talking to the people that are working on the breakers or everything from troubleshooting to maybe you're talking to your UPS vendor to size your battery charger correctly for your substation batteries to back up your relays. The professional development is huge. You're really going to expand your vocabulary and really be able to communicate efficiently, and you're going to know what kind of what the other engineers in different roles are dealing with. Let's see. Tyler said, "Yeah, more money. Show me the money." Right? Hey, no shame here. That was my why when I took the PE exam. Matthew said career advancement, and Weston said passing the PE exam at our company is huge. Definitely a big step in advancing the career ladder and opens up more positions. Wonderful. Yeah, it really helps to identify your why first. Like I said, studying for the PE exam, it's tough, right? We all know the reputation of the P exam even before we take it from our colleagues, our bosses, our friends. So it really helps to kind of, identify the light at the end of the tunnel. Remind yourself why you're sacrificing so much to pass. At the end of the day, it's just a test. All right, so what exactly makes passing the PE exam so difficult? Before we talk about the exact particulars, I always like to start with the pass metrics. So this is the latest data pulled from the NCS website, ncs.org, examples P exam for anyone that was interested. It was last updated in July. If you look at electrical power, it's down here too, but I moved it to the top just to make it easy to compare. If you look at electrical power, first time pass rate, 61%. That tells us more than a third of the people that walk in to take that test for the first time, they're going to fail. Repeat pass rate plummets down to 42%. If we compare these pass metrics to the other disciplines of the PE exam, you'll notice this is among the lowest, right? Structural matches at 61% and 42. Transportation also matches at 61% and 42 first time and repeat takers. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. So, any guesses as to why the repeat pass rate is so much lower compared to first time takers? Anyone want to take a guess at that either in the chat or feel free to unmute your microphone too. We've got a small enough group here today. And I've heard all sorts of funny rumors from, NCS if you don't pass the first time, they really want to challenge you. So if you're taking it for a repeat time, you're getting a harder version of the test, or you have to score higher to pass the second time around, right? That's just, of course, office talk. That's just rumors. Um, Anyone want to take a guess at that? Anyone want to take a stab at why the repeat pass rate is all the way down to 42% less than half compared to 61%, about two-thirds, a little less than two-thirds for first time? And I'll share with you one of my favorite quotes when we talk about pass rates. I think it's often attributed to Ben Franklin, although it might be a misquote. Definition of insanity. Has anyone ever heard this before? What's the definition of insanity? Definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, but expecting different results, right? Classic definition of insanity. So it doesn't matter if you're taking the P exam for the first time. It doesn't matter if you're taking it for the 12th time. And I've met plenty of engineers that have to take it 12 times. You're going to get graded the same, right? Nowadays, it's the CBT format on the computer. You're getting a randomized version of the P exam every time you take it. But NCEES, they're not doing anything silly like giving you a tougher exam the second or third time around just because you didn't pass it the first time. The reason why the repeat pass rate is so low is someone's gonna give it their best shot, not pass, and say, well, I guess I'll just give it my best shot next time, right? Back to that definition of insanity. They're doing the same thing over and over again without changing their strategy. So they're getting the same results over and over again. And I always like to say no one passes the PE exam by accident. It's too difficult of an exam. So those of you, if you have already taken the PE exam and you haven't been successful yet, especially the power exam, most important thing you want to do is look at what am I doing differently compared to those that are passing? How can I close that gap? So we'll talk about that too. All right, so specifically, why is the power exam so tough, right? It's one of the lowest pass rates PE exams. What makes it so difficult? We know this exam is important. It's usually the last milestone before professional licensure. Most states are now decoupled. They let you pass the P exam as soon as you get out of college. You still got to wait for your 4 years of experience. But typically, the P exam, last final obstacle before licensure. So, electrical engineering, right? I'm biased. I know all of you that are electrical engineers too. I assume you're biased too, but electrical engineering, it's by far, my opinion, the most difficult, the most technical discipline of engineering, right? Mechanical engineers get to play with things like pumps, gears, conveyor belts, piping systems. Civil engineers get to play with big works of concrete, big cranes. Environmental engineers are dealing with, water or different air pollutants, things they can sample. We're dealing with electricity, right? We can't see it. Certainly can't touch it, right? Um, and it's also backed by incredibly challenging physics, right? We're essentially dealing with electromagnetic waves that manifest itself as things like current, voltage, and power. So electrical engineering, it's one of the most technical disciplines of engineering. The PE exam is comprehensive in both depth and breadth. So as deep into each of these subjects the PE exam will test you on. They're not just testing you on surface level, right? This isn't the FE exam anymore. They're going to test you on really deep understanding of these topics. The scope of the exam is also huge. Every single industry of electrical engineering is going to be on the exam. Again, I assume most of you predominantly work in high voltage substations. Um, you're going to be tested on motors, on transformers, on protection, on codes. You're going to be tested on things like metering, everything down to circuit analysis, to DC circuits, power electronics, everything, right? If it's on the left side of the decimal, if it's on the power side of the decimal, you're going to have to know the entire scope. You're going to have to know it well enough into the depth to answer these questions correctly. In addition, code books, right? Extremely challenging. Do you guys deal, Tyler, do you guys deal with the NEC on most of your substation projects? I know a lot of times if that's for a utility, it might fall outside the NEC.
Yeah, NEC,
Okay,
NFPA, a lot of the IEEE standards as well.
great. Okay. So in that case, you guys definitely have a leg up. National Electrical Code is the code book that you'll see the most questions on. But NEC, right? It's notoriously difficult, right? I always want to pull my hair out when I'm trying to go down a code rabbit hole. A lot of times you end up in circular code loops or you find things that are hard to interpret and sometimes conflicting. All right, other reasons why passing the P exam is so difficult. Textbooks and practice exams, the majority of traditional study material, they skip steps. I remember when I was studying for the P exam, even studying off of the official NCS practice exam, trying to follow their solutions. It's difficult. They'll give you one line of math when you really need six, and it's hard to understand how they went from A to B to get the answer without realizing, well, they really went from A all the way to Z, but they just condensed it and they skipped steps. They're assuming you know it well enough, which unfortunately usually isn't the case when you're studying to pass. This makes it extremely time consuming to learn from, right? Nothing's more frustrating than spending 4 or 5 hours on a single practice problem, just trying to figure out the solution. When you finally figure out like that misstep, you essentially wasted your time, right? If the solutions are detailed enough and you can correctly identify, okay, well, this is the step I need to get to the next solution, you're gonna save a lot more time. Other reasons why I passed the P exam so difficult, right? This is a mental marathon. It's an 8 hour exam split over two 4 hour sessions. It's huge, right? Solving problems for an 8 hour stretch, it is mentally challenging. You're going to be fatigued. Your exam day anxiety is going to be through the roof. You're going to end up making more simple mistakes, whether it's, a mistake on the calculator or common ones, addition instead of subtraction or vice versa. It's very taxing mentally. And then, of course, right, preparing for the P exam, it's kind of feels like a full-time job. So not only are we pouring hours and hours and hours into studying for the P exam, we still have our full-time day job that we can't neglect, especially if we're still trying to build our career and make a name for ourselves. A lot of us have families at home, new families that are also huge commitments, right? A lot of us probably aren't already getting as much sleep as we need. And on top of that, we're throwing on studying for the hardest exam we've ever taken. All of these make studying for the P exam extremely difficult. And when we're talking about electrical engineering specifically, things like complex numbers and the per unit system permeates every single topic. So typically, right, we can represent numbers with a single quantity, right? 1, 17, 23. When we're dealing with electrical engineering, that's no longer the case. We're dealing with complex numbers. So we can either represent it as a real component and an imaginary component of that vector, if we're representing a complex number in rectangular form, or we can represent it in polar form as both magnitude and angle. So this complex number system, it's in every single topic, along with typically everyone's least favorite is the per unit system. But things like the square root of three, how to recognize phase versus line values, converting back and forth between polar and rectangular for complex numbers, delta versus Y relationships, single phase versus three phase relationships, balanced and unbalanced relationships, right? The list goes on and on and on. Positive versus negative sequence, Kirchhoff's voltage and current laws, and complex circuits for different machines and faults, right? I don't have to, sell you on this. It is an extremely technical discipline of engineering. All right, I'm curious from each of you, what have you found to be the most difficult? Again, no right or wrong answers. If you've taken the P exam before, if you've already started studying, even if it's your first attempt, or maybe you haven't started studying yet, what do you think might be the most difficult? It can be something that we already mentioned, it can be something unique to you. Again, no right or wrong answers. If they have an equivalent from Tyler, yeah, definitely. Motors and generators, yeah. Typically, rotating machines, I usually like to say that's kind of like the hidden most difficult topic, right? Protection and codes and standards gets all the attention, but rotating machines, easily, in my opinion, the deepest theory and conceptual subject combined with just as many quantitative problems. Yeah, rotating machines, very challenging. Codes, said William. Yeah, definitely codes. When I did a short stint in building design, doing hospitals, code heavy, right? Can't design anything in a hospital without following not just the NEC, but even ACA. After that, when I transitioned into the industrial world, National Electrical Code, what's that, right? We were very profitable industrial facility with about a dozen industrial plants on campus. Something breaks in the middle of the night, all of a sudden your profit center is hemorrhaging, bleeding $40,000 an hour. National Electrical Code, I don't know what that is. I need a contractor to pull a 3-aught wire, about 1,000 yards to get this one pump up and running. So for me, I would say codes was one of the most difficult aspects. I was essentially really learning it for the first time when I took the PE exam. And symmetrical components for me, I think it's the most technical topic on the power exam. For me, I went into the PE exam blind and not even really fully understanding that subject. All right, so some brief proven strategies to pass. We cover this in incredible detail. Our first live class of every semester, it's 3 hours long. Introduction to the PE exam, or I think now we've rebranded it, How to Pass the PE exam. It's similar to what we're going to talk about now, but we really go into the nuts and bolts of each of these steps. But proven strategies to pass, start early. At least 4 months prior is when you want to start studying. Do people pass in less time? Sure, but it's way more risky. All of these strategies, what we're trying to maximize is the success at passing the exam when we first take it. And the reason being is, again, you're gonna, unfortunately, you're not gonna have a life outside of studying and going to work. If you have a family at home, your spouse is gonna end up having to really do more as well just to buy you an extra hour here there to study. What we really want to avoid is not passing and then having to go through all of this over again. Do people pass in 3 months? Sure. Do they pass in two? Usually not. It happens. But if you risk that kind of approach, you're risking having to go through all of this over again. We typically now feeling demotivated as well. So at least 4 months. At least 4 months. Five is better. Six is ideal. 5 or 6, if you have a wedding that pops up, if you have a social event you really don't want to miss, a family event you really don't want to miss, 5 or 6 months at least gives you a few weekends here and there. You can take a break where 3 or 4 months, you're really cutting it down to the wire. I always recommend using a calendar. Use a calendar or schedule that you're already using, right? I use my email calendar for everything. So I block out time on my email calendar. Some people like physical calendars at home that they hang on their fridge. Whatever calendar system you're already using, stick to that because that's where your eyes are already used to looking at your commitments. But anytime you're planning on studying, schedule time with yourself. Block it out on your calendar. Don't just tell yourself, I'm going to study when I get off work. I'm going to wake up an hour early and I'm going to study. I'm going to study on my lunch break. I'm going to study on Saturday. Don't just tell yourself that. Hold yourself accountable. Literally schedule your own meeting with yourself. And the reason why that works so well is when your eyes are looking at your calendar and you're seeing these meetings scheduled ahead of time with yourself to study, you're already going to be committing to it in advance, and it's going to make you less likely to not commit and to just say, well, I'm going to sleep in. Well, the game's on. Well, I want to get out of the house this weekend. I'll do it next weekend. I'll do it next lunch break. I'll do it tomorrow morning instead. Don't fall for that. Block out time in your calendar ahead of time. Really important is you want to pick one day a week and do a full 8 hours that day every week. The reason why, back to the PE exam, it's a mental marathon. Again, we talk way more about this in the first class of the semester, but the analogy I always like to give is you can take the best Olympic sprinter in the world, throw them in your average marathon. How's it going to do? It's not finishing top five, I'll tell you that. Does that mean they're not a good athlete? Of course not, right? We're talking about a gold medalist here, except in sprinting. And so the problem is this athlete is just trained for a very different event. Great analogy for the PE exam is the PE exam a sprint or is the PE exam a marathon, right? We all know it's an 8 hour mental marathon. So we got to make sure we're not training our brain, our mind for sprint. We're training our mind for that mental 8 hour marathon. 1 day a week, 8 hours. Most people find the best time to do it is Saturday. Doesn't matter what day of the week it is, it just matters that you're consistent. The first time you do this, it's going to be brutal. You're not going to enjoy it. Most people don't make it the full 8 hours the first time. That's exactly what we want. The next week, when you do it, it's still not fun, but you might stick to the 8 hour window. The third week, when you do it, you're going to make the full 8 hours. You're going to be a little bit more used to it. You're going to stick to it. Every time you do it, it gets better, it gets better, it gets better. The reason why that's what we want is you want to expose yourself to that way ahead of time than at the PE exam, right? I promise the first time you attempt to sit down and study for 8 hours, besides, a 1 hour lunch break, most of you won't be able to. You're going to stop before then. Your mental endurance just hasn't been built up yet, hasn't been trained yet. So can you imagine if you're only studying for 2 or 3 hours at a time, a year in advance even? What happens when you take the PE exam? It's your first time working problems for 8 hours, and it's the time when it matters. It's the time when your results are on the line. So do this early. If you're already studying for the P exam, you're not doing this, I would suggest start this weekend. You got to get it out of the way as soon as possible. It's just like, lifting weights to get stronger. The 8 hour study day, it's like mental cardio. It's just training us for the competition we're competing in. It's training us for the event we signed up for. All right, mastering the basics. If you're not sure where you should be spending your time, say you're halfway through studying, you're like, should I put more time on transformers? Should I put more time on codes and standards, protection? Spend time mastering the fundamentals. Putting time into circuit analysis, power fundamentals, single phase versus three phase power relationships pays tremendous dividends. These relationships spread across every topic, every subject. So really prioritize the fundamentals. The sooner you master the fundamentals, the quicker you see all of your scores going up across all subjects. Another thing to do is start to identify early your common mistakes. A lot of people struggle with the square root of three. A lot of people struggle with circuit analysis. Find the repeated mistakes, regardless of the subject, that is resulting in your highest number of incorrect answers when you study. Dial in on those, fix those early. You're going to see a huge return on your practice exam scores. Try to leverage as much as possible detailed study solutions. You want solutions that are extremely in depth because if you're stuck on step two, you got to make sure that step wasn't skipped in the solution, kind of like what we talked about, classic NCEES official practice exam solutions. It doesn't matter what part of the problem you're stuck on, you need every step explained in a really logical, intuitive method so you can pick right back up and get to the solution as quickly as possible to maximize your study time. So seek out learning materials with in-depth solutions. Not only will it help with better understanding, but you're going to be able to actually get through the study material quicker, even though there's more material to read through. It's because you don't get stuck. You don't get stuck searching Google, talking to ChatGPT, talking to your colleagues, right? It's just going to save time. Look for challenging problems. You want fair but thought-provoking problems to maximize learning. You want to study at a difficulty level that's slightly higher than the P exam. If you're studying really easy problems, it's not going to help so much because a lot of times electrical engineering, the math is kind of circular. Sometimes you can get the right answer using the wrong method. It'll be a coincidence that you're going to get the right answer for the particular problem you're working on. But if you apply that method to a slightly different problem, it's not going to work. So that's a trap I see often when people study from easy practice exams. It feels great, right? You feel like you're making a ton of progress, flying through practice problems, flying through these, 500 page, or excuse me, 500 problem volume of practice sets, but you're really doing yourself a disservice. And unfortunately, it's going to make you think you're more prepared than you are, and you're going to face a really sobering reality check when you take the P exam. So just be careful there. When it comes to reference books, a lot of people hang on to their academic textbooks from college. Careful here. You want to avoid just reading things page to page to page. That's not a productive strategy for the P exam. Instead, you want to prioritize hands-on practice. What does that mean? Essentially, you want to solve as many practice problems as possible from now until your exam date. You don't just want to be reading textbooks. You don't just want to be reading white papers. Again, more on this. We spent about 3 hours talking about these proven strategies to pass in our first class of the semester, Introduction to the P exam slash how to pass the P exam. All right, other proven strategies to pass. Find a support community. You guys are a pretty large engineering firm. Chances are more than a couple of colleagues will probably be studying for the P exam at the same time. Fantastic. Seek out any other engineers taking the P exam. When I took the PE exam, the only other person I knew taking the PE exam was taking the mechanical PE exam. Back in the old days, paper and pencil format, it was a huge ballroom. I think there must have been 400 or 500 engineers jammed into this hotel ballroom in Orlando. Every discipline of the PE exam, two people to a fold-out table. But my friend taking the mechanical exam, we didn't really have anything to talk about other than how unpleasant it was doing nothing but studying for the PE exam. So form internal study groups, form accountability study partners, especially with colleagues that you work with. It'll push you to do better and better and better. When it comes to practice exams, you want to take at least four, the more the better. Um, Things like the official NCEES practice exam. There's all sorts of different practice exams you can buy on Amazon, ours included. I won't name them here. When you do take practice exams, it's very important. Mimic the exam conditions. What you want to avoid, if you see me looking around, I was seeing if I had one I could pick up off my desk. What you want to avoid, and it's so tempting, don't do it, uh, is to go to Starbucks, work problem one, flip to the back of the book, check, did I get problem one right? Got it right. All right. Go to problem two, work problem two, flip to the back of the book. Did I get problem two right? I didn't get problem two right. You don't want to do that. You want to mimic the exam conditions because, again, we're training for that exact competition we signed up for, the PE exam, right? You want to expose yourself to these problems with uncertainty. You want to get through at least the first session before you take a break and check your work. Better if you get through both the morning and the afternoon session, all 80 questions in the practice exam before you check your work. When you take the P exam, you're gonna have no idea if you answer problems correctly. You have no clue. You want to really force yourself to kind of work a little bit outside your comfort zone. It really gets the wheels spinning. Again, it's really difficult the first time you do this. It's not fun, right? Not much about studying for the P exam is fun, except that huge feeling of accomplishment you get when you pass. But again, you want to really practice for the exam. You're not going to know if you are getting problems right mid-exam. And when you stop, when you check your work every problem, you're really slowing down your pace. And again, one of the biggest goals is we want to do as many practice problems from today until our exam date. All right, after you take practice exams, we call this the problem index in class, but you want to document every problem, not only that you got wrong, but problems you guessed on too. If you guessed on it, and you got the problem right, should you skip the solution? I wouldn't. Right? If you guessed on it, that means that It's great that it counted for your score, but if that problem was presented in a slightly different perspective on the P exam, you might not have guessed right. So any problem you get wrong, any problem you guess on, you want to document them. What practice exam did it come from? What problem number was it? What exam specification subject does it fall under? Why did I get it wrong? I mean, was it a square root of three? Was it just I'm just not comfortable with transformers yet? Document, make a running list. Most important thing about that list, it's a personal list that's going to identify personally for you what is holding you back. Everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. Some are better at code, some are better at circuit analysis, some have weaker math background, but great industry related qualitative experience, right? Everyone's got their own strengths and weaknesses. When you document the problems that you're currently getting wrong, you have a golden cheat sheet. You got a golden map that's going to tell you if you took the P exam today and you didn't pass, here's exactly the type of problems that are holding you back. So not only is it going to help you know where do I need to spend my time in to get the maximum return on improving my score, but going back to an earlier point, you're also going to identify much earlier on, hey, what are the common patterns of my own personal mistakes? Regardless if it's fault curve analysis, per unit system, voltage drop, transmission lines, protection. I got six of these problems wrong across all these different subjects, but all of these six problems I got wrong because I didn't convert from a phase value to a line value or vice versa. So really, it had nothing to do with protection. It had nothing to do with voltage drop. It had nothing to do with transmission lines where I got it wrong. It came down to a fundamental. So again, this index is golden. It's your own personal roadmap of what to work on before your exam day. It's huge. Other proven strategies to pass. If you can, join a program that teaches you with an active hands-on approach. We'll be talking about our program here shortly, but whoever you decide to sign up with, find one that focuses on accountability, find one that has a mentor. All right, proven strategies to pass. Interested in hearing from each of you attending today. Have you found anything to be helpful so far in your approach? Maybe you've already taken the P exam, you didn't get the results yet that you would like, but what strategies have you found to be effective or helpful for you? It could be something we've already talked about. It could be something totally unique and personal. Tyler said problem index. Yeah, problem index is huge. No one thinks they need a problem index until they're signed up to take the PE exam again. Then everyone buys into the problem index and it helps big time. Consistency from Tyler, sure. Anybody else? Don't be shy. All right, so here are some of the ways we can help. Again, a lot of different classes available online for the PE exam. I've been doing this now for over a decade. In that time, I would say since post-COVID, so since 2021, we've been the largest Power PE class. We're very proud of that. We've slowly grown it to that place. We help more engineers pass the Power PE exam every other year, or excuse me, every year compared to every provider combined. So we're really proud about that. We are the largest and most comprehensive both live and on-demand study program. We have 21 live or on-demand classes, 65 hours of live instruction. In addition to our live class program, we have our on-demand review course. It acts as a resource library totally separate from the material included with live class. It's got over 500 practice problems, 400 on demand, quick, short videos. If you're struggling with auto transformers, you can find the 10-minute video addressing that exact type of problem, pointing out the common pitfalls and traps. We've got over 800 pages of comprehensive written explanations, detailed commentary, common mistakes to avoid, you name it. I'm a big visual learner myself, so we cram in visual aids everywhere possible. It really helps to make the material less abstract. Study seamlessly on any device. People like to use their iPads, like to use their phones on their lunch break, you name it. Access to we now have the largest online community for electrical engineers taking the power exam. A lot of people ask, hey, I'm interested in signing up. I've been in the industry for 25 years. I'm very rusty. Can you recommend any fundamental material, any introductory material that I should work through first so I can kind of hit the ground running? My answer is always the same. we provide everything. We start every semester with the fundamentals first. We make zero assumptions on your math background. We make zero assumptions on your experience level. It makes us effective for first year engineers just out of college. It makes us effective for junior and senior engineers. And it also makes us effective for a lot of times we get engineers at the very end of their career that they just always wanted to have their license before they retire. So we start every semester with the fundamentals first, especially with our fundamental boot camps on power fundamentals, circuit analysis, and complex numbers. Plenty of practice exams to assess your progress. Mentorship personally from me for personalized guidance and support. And excited about this. We now have a dedicated code class with Ryan Jackson. Are any of you familiar with that name? I believe he used to work with Mike Holt. He's been teaching the National Electrical Code for over 20 years. He's fantastic. And we hire him every year to come in and give a very intense code only class specifically for the PE exam. When it comes to our class format, the live and on-demand class format, um, it's weekly dedicated to each subject. Again, I'm not going to spend too much time here because I know we kind of already talked about this a lot, but every class is super interactive with a live chat live chat room in each class. If you'll notice, I hardly ever teach off PowerPoint slides. If you've ever heard death by PowerPoint, even right now where I am using a slide deck, I'm always going to be annotating as I go along. Our class material, it's actually a lot of fun, and we like to say it's the most fun you'll have, while studying for the hardest exam of your life. Super engaging. The chat room is flying, all sorts of engagement. You're going to meet a lot of other industry professionals working alongside you studying for the PE exam. We do everything together, hands-on interactive. You have the same slides I do, and I walk you through how to solve each problem step by step by step. My biggest pet peeve when I'm in webinars, if it's a math related webinar, if the math is already on screen, I don't know about you, but my brain doesn't work that well in terms of retaining the material. I'll sit on even an NEC class for like motor sizing. And if the math is kind of already typed out, even if it's in a formula, it doesn't help, right? Unless I'm actually picking up my calculator, writing down the numbers. Me personally, I don't really retain the information. And I found that other engineers are the same way, which is why every class we feature it, kind of fill in the blank style, work through it as you go along. It's a lot of fun. There's everything from, homework problems. We've got a end of life class test, unlimited class access replays. I know most of you are probably already familiar with our live class, so I'll try not to be too repetitive in this 1 hour format. But yeah, our fundamental boot camps, doesn't matter how long ago you graduated college, doesn't matter how long ago you passed the FE exam, doesn't matter if you skip the FE exam with an FE waiver. We start every semester with the basics, circuit analysis fundamentals, and power fundamentals spreads across almost every single topic on the PE exam. It's kind of the hidden subject. So square root of three, phase verse line, complex numbers, all of the formulas not in the reference handbook, like the S equals V squared over Z or S equals I squared Z formulas, all the common mistakes to avoid where other engineers go wrong when they're learning it for the first time. Um, Again, this is I can't stress how important the fundamentals really are for the PE exam. Because again, it spreads over every single subject. And when you start keeping an index of the problems you're getting wrong or that you're guessing on, again, it doesn't matter if it's, power factor correction, doesn't matter even, ground resistance testing. A lot of the times it's a math fundamental related to electrical engineering. It's not actually an issue with the formula from that particular topic. All right. Other things we offer, practice exams. We've got the top rated practice exams on Amazon. We've got the technical study guide was the first ever AIT practice exam featuring only AIT problems. We released this when the transition to the CBT format happened in December 2020. Brand new one, my favorite, is the qualitative practice exam, 100 qualitative practice problems for the PE exam. Industry trends, PE exam is getting more and more qualitative. less reliant on plug and chug, less reliant on finding the correct formula and typing the numbers in and selecting the answer that matches your calculator. Nowadays, the exam's at least 50-50 qualitative and quantitative. So those of you that are really comfortable with math, really comfortable with finding the right formula, you can't rely on that to pass the PE exam anymore. So the Mastering the PE exam 100 qualitative practice problems follows the same format of our live class. Students generally work through each subject in the same order as live class. Really effective. We don't skip any steps. We don't make any prior assumptions. You'll never get lost following our solutions. This is extremely time consuming to make this type of study material. Super effective. It's the most effective study material for the PE exam. All right, when we talk about finding a support community, um, ourpehelp.com is the shortcut URL. I encourage you all to join this community. Whether or not you decide to enroll in our class, it's a free resource we provide to the public. Largest online community for the Power exam. Um, if you can ask any question related to the P exam, you'll have multiple responses, sometimes within the hour. Sometimes a lot of people just want to vent and seek emotional support. They're frustrated. They're studying, 10, 20 hours a week. They're just looking to connect with other peers. Huge alumni network too in the career and networking group as well. It's really helpful reading these success stories to see what's currently working. And that's a good way to benchmark your practice exam scores as well. A couple of ways we're different. A lot of the big providers, they cater to all disciplines of the P exam, civil, mechanical, you name it. And they all hire third-party instructors that are being paid a flat hourly rate. They get paid the same rate whether you pass or not. So what ends up happening is a lot of instructors come and go. They're teaching material that was created by a different instructor years ago, and the instructors are not incentivized to produce results. We have a handful of instructors for our FE program. We've got about 50 guest speakers for our continuing education program. I'm the only instructor for the power exam. I will never hire an instructor for the power exam. As the owner of the company, I'm directly incentivized to produce results, which is why the quality of material is so high. Again, which is why we help more engineers pass the power exam every year than every other provider combined. We also focus on the technical aspects of every subject that a lot of other providers, they typically ignore or get wrong or won't answer your questions on because frankly, they just are not familiar with how to answer those types of problems. And again, I'm a visual learner. We use visual aids in every class, every practice exam problem, you name it. And the other thing I'm really proud about, we're the only provider with a fair retake policy. I would encourage you to read the fine print on other providers. Every provider out there to retake their class, if you do not pass the PE exam, you have to have minimum attendance of 90 to 95% of their live class. What happens if your spouse calls you flat tire, you got to go help them? What happens if there's a troubleshooting call on a job site? What happens if life gets in the way? What happens if you're just taking a break because we're human? Or they have a minimum course completion, like 90% course completion. If the course is large enough to provide enough material to pass the PE exam, chances are you're not even going to be able to complete all of it in the first place. Our program is huge, it's tremendous. I don't expect you to complete the whole thing. Most people can't from a time perspective, but we're always adding more and more and more material. That way, depending on where you're struggling, you can put more time in those areas. Other providers, their retake, they're going to hold you to a minimum course completion. It's a gotcha. There's no way you can complete it all. So then if you don't pass the P exam, they want you to pay again to take the program. We're the only provider. No class attendance requirement, no course completion requirement, no course score requirement, nothing. All you have to do is take the exam at least uh, by a month after your enrollment expires. It's the only fair retake in the industry. Very proud of the transparency. So please be sure to read the fine print. Other ways we help, single point of contact, right? If you have a question on the study material, if you have a question with the course portal, if you have a question with the class invites, we do not We don't farm out customer support to virtual assistants like other providers. I am your only single point of contact. I'm familiar with just about every student. Provides one-on-one personalized help. Again, other providers with third-party instructors, they're not incentivized to produce results. Instructors are getting paid an hourly rate. It's a side gig. A lot of times they get burned out of teaching, so they're not going to be there in a couple years anyways. They don't care if you pass. They're not incentivized. Um, we cater to engineers all across the world. We've got engineers from as far as Guam, Hawaii, now even Saudi Arabia, Canada, and Africa. Other providers, it's all traditional learning methods. It's all PowerPoint. The math's already done for you. It's instructors teaching material that they didn't create themselves. It's not effective. You're going to end up spending more time trying to follow along with material that's outdated. All right, that was a lot for me. Answer in the chat. Out of curiosity, what is everyone here, if you are considering signing up for a prep course or a class, what are you looking for a provider? What are you looking for from an exam prep service provider for the PE exam? And I'm just checking my slides here. We're pretty close to the end. I'm doing my best to stick to the 1 hour format, but a lot of powerful strategies I want to share with you today. Let's see. William said, yeah, lots of practice problems. Tyler said, ton of practice problems. Yeah, you bet. On-demand class videos, said Brenda. Great. Anything else? I did not take a class when I took the P exam. I just studied from every resource I could put my hands on. Me personally, I'm a huge believer in education. I'm a continuous learner. I sign up for all sorts of different classes and courses in my personal time related to engineering and just related to my own topics of interest. Me personally, I'm a learn by doing type person. So I always look for programs where it's hands-on learning, where they're going to guide you through it, not just essentially reading a book to you. That's my personal flexibility from Tyler. Eric said lots of problems with detailed solutions. Good. All right, a couple different ways you can get started for free. Um, Always sample material. Classes are expensive. Sample material first. Um, Uh, some of the favorite emails I get are from engineers that pass the P exam without it even signing up for a program, but they just use our free material. And I love that. I think that's great. We provide more free material than any other provider. Not everyone has the budget for a class. Not every company has a reimbursement program. Always look for ways you can get started for free. So, in the order of the most effective, here's where I would steer you. Our YouTube channel, you can just search electrical PE review. You can find a video with my face on it. Some of the videos like this one, my hair is a little darker than it is now, and I think I had a little bit more hair than two. But YouTube electrical PE review, or if you have the slide deck, I think I made the slide deck available. If you want a copy, just email me. You can click this link. Tons of full-length videos that come straight from our class, come straight from our course, come straight from our paid material. So YouTube videos where you should go first, right? You don't even have to sign up for anything. After that, I would suggest download the free samples of each of the three practice exams we have right now. Technical study guide. I've got a direct link to it, the AIT practice exam and the qualitative practice exam. 10 problem sample, 38 pages long. 10 problem sample, 49 pages long. 16 problem sample, 57 pages long. I have practice exams that are 57 pages total. So this is a 57 page just for 16 problems because the solutions really work you through explaining why the particular answer is correct. And then they also explain why the incorrect answers are not the correct choice. Great for learning. If you don't have the slide decks, right, I wouldn't expect you to type all of this in. You can just go to our main page, electricalpereview.com. And if you click on the practice exam sessions, there's a link to download the free sample version of each of the practice exams. And I'm really excited. We're working on I think this is the first time I've actually announced it live. We're working on a 200 problem code practice exam early 2026 to add to our arsenal. Very excited. It is a joint collaborative effort with Ryan Jackson too. So it's going to be probably the best code book ever made for the PE exam. Other ways to get started for free, join the online community. Shortcut URL, powerpehelp.com. You don't even need to make an account in order to read all of the posts. All the posts are about all the different types of questions people need help with. It's organized in the same format of our live class, so it's easy to click on each individual space. If you need help with transformers, power electronics, per unit protection, you name it. Largest alumni network of licensed power engineers. A lot of these guys go on to teach for our continuing education program as well. But yeah, totally check this out. Absolutely free resource we make for the public. If you have questions, I encourage you to post them. Again, you don't even have to sign up for a program. We're happy to help anyone studying for the P exam. On our online community, definitely check out the success stories. If you want to know, hey, I took the official NCS practice exam. I only scored 65%. Do I need to score higher or lower? How are people scoring on practice exams that pass versus don't pass? All of the success stories, all of our students typically write down their practice exam scores. Easy way to see how you're measuring up, where you're at in your study journey, if you're ahead of schedule, behind schedule, or right on schedule. And this is just a recent post from Ira. When I made the slide deck, he had just posted it 9 hours ago. The exam slightly changed in October 2025. If you're not aware of that, engineering economics out, reliability out, Boolean algebra in, photovoltaics, wind generation in, ultracapacitors in. If you're curious about what people are saying about the new exam format, you can click on the success stories right here at the top, and we can read all the success stories posted since October. I also have a great webinar replay on our YouTube channel detailing all of the changes in the October 2025 updated specifications. Very helpful if you've already taken the PE exam and you're curious about how you should change your study approach. All right, we're getting close to the end. Curious, how are you planning on getting started studying for the PE exam? If you've already gotten started, what have you been doing? If you're getting ready to get started, what are you planning on doing? Let's see, eyes are in the chat. What do we got? How are you personally planning on getting started for the P exam? No right or wrong answers. Some people say I've been talking to ChatGPT. I've been searching on YouTube. I've been reading forums, going on Reddit, going on the Power P Help online community. Yeah, Tyler said enrolled in the class. Yeah. Doing a ton of practice problems. Good job, Noah. Noah, are you taking practice exams under exam-like conditions, or are you flipping to the back to see if you got them right? Don't forget, treat your practice exams like the real thing. Treat your practice exams like the real thing. All right, what do we do when we pass the P exam? What's next? Um, Gurus is going to be 2 years. Wow, next month. Yeah, December 2025, Gurus will be 2 years. This is our latest project. A lot of fun. Totally free and open to the public. I host two live continuing education seminars every month with a rotating list of guest professional engineer guest speakers. We're approved continuing education provider in every single state for licensing renewal. I also post all of the recordings to the on-demand resource library at omgurus.com. So typically what our users do is the ones that really interest them, they'll attend them live. And then, say a month before their licensing renewal is, they'll go to omgurus.com and they'll just binge through however many seminars they need in a weekend or in a week to knock off all their CE credits. We have ethics seminars from actually right here, Lyle. Lyle passed the P exam with our class, and then he went on. Passing the P exam wasn't enough. Lyle went on and passed the bar exam. Lyle is a professional engineer attorney in patent law based out of Texas. Lyle does all of our ethics seminars, but we've got everything, every aspect of the industry. We've got different experts talking about. It's a ton of fun. Chat room is really engaging. It's a great way to network. So definitely check out omgurus.com when you pass the P exam. It's like live class, but even more fun, right? More fun, less stress. Uh, no, nothing on the line like having to pass the P exam. All right. 1:30 p.m. here on the East Coast, right on the dot, 1 hour. Anybody got questions? Feel free to unmute or say hello with your video or microphone as well.
Yeah, so we have a question here, at the Houston office. Do y'all have an internal pass rate of the people who take the Zach Stone course?
Sure, great question. That's something we are currently working on, and what we don't have it publicly available yet because we want to make sure we're comparing apples to apples. Um, every competitor, again, got to read the fine print. Any provider that publishes their pass rates, they're selectively pulling only students that completed every class live, worked through all of the program live. It's not a true representative of the class as a whole. So we don't have it yet. We are actively working on it, and we're trying to publish it along with the metrics that we use to query that sample. Again, just believe in transparency. Let's see. Good question. William said, when are the typical live class semesters available throughout the year? So we've got four cohort-based semesters. Two are taught live in real time, two are on demand. The live class semesters start January and July. Outside of that, like right now, we're in the fall on-demand semester. Definitely check out these schedules on our main page, electricalpereview.com, William. I always recommend attend live if you can. Super engaging. The chat room flies. You get all your questions answered live in real time. Live classes are the current format is Tuesday and Wednesday evenings, 6 p.m. Eastern time, from 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern time. If that doesn't fit your schedule, nothing wrong with doing an on-demand semester. You still can get all of your questions answered. What most students do on the on-demand semester is they'll watch class on one monitor with the online community pulled up on another monitor or pulled up on their phone, and they'll snap photos and ask questions on the online community while working through a class replay. So you'll still get the same questions answered, and you'll still have the same level of support. It's just more fun, more engaging. It's fun seeing that chat room fly, people asking questions, answering questions, sharing personal stories. Just makes you feel more connected to the class as a whole. But some people would just rather chip away at their own schedule. It's totally up to you. Both are equally effective for studying. Let's see. Austin said, I took the exam in spring 2023. All of the questions were ordered by their category. However, all the practice exams I took to prepare had the questions shuffled. How is the test structured now? Great question. Um, so, judging based off all the feedback I hear in the success stories on the online community, questions tend to be grouped, not necessarily following the order of the NCEES specifications. Code questions seem to be both in the morning and the afternoon session. So it seems like there's some sort of internal ordering that NCS is using, but not really clear what it is or if it's changing. So Austin, best bet, prepare for total random order and be happy, right? Be delighted when you at least see some question grouping. That's what I would recommend. Great question, though.
Another question here in the Houston office is, would you say the pre-work is an essential part of the course structure?
Sure, great question. Um, Typically, when I'm asked this, it's due to time prioritization. So I'll start by first answering prioritize live or on-demand class. Our class material is always going to be the most updated, the most efficient, the most evolved based on student feedback. So if you're worried about prioritizing time, juggling outside responsibilities, prioritize showing up to class, working through class material, asking questions related to class, and then class homework. I would say to definitely do the pre-work if you can. Some classes have more pre-work than others, just depending on how big the subject is, like rotating machines. Rotating machines, it's the subject everyone overlooks. It's the biggest subject on the PE exam, not necessarily in terms of number of questions, like that question range on the specs, but biggest scope for one topic in both qualitative depth and quantitative depth. So the pre-work for rotating machines reflects that. Um, I would recommend reading through the success stories, and you'll notice most say that they went through the pre-work. Does that mean you have to pass? No. But there's some excellent work in the pre-work. At the very least, if you're really trying to prioritize for time, do class first, do the homework, and then at least try to work through the quiz questions in the pre-work, or at least do the video examples in the pre-work. So I absolutely encourage you to do it if you've got the time. It'll pay dividends in the long term. It's just much more practice, much more variety in problems, different perspectives. It's just going to prepare you for the real thing better. What we got? You got me. Any other questions? Any burning questions? Favorite sports teams?
I don't think we have any questions here in Houston. I will say a few of us here have taken your course, and uh, just talking to the crowd here too, it's very, very helpful. So it's one that I think a lot of us recommend. Just the amount of resources that are provided, it's great. So definitely take advantage of the company being able to pay for it, as well as um, all the practice material that is given. So.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun. And again, I know I already said it, but I like to say we have as much fun possible studying for the hardest exam of your career, likely of your life. Um, yeah, class is fun. It's very hands-on, huge support community. You're going to walk away from this learning more than you ever thought possible about electrical engineering, way beyond what it's going to take the P exam. I love the emails I get from alumni students years after they've been through the program. Like, man, I talked to, a transmission line engineer who's rebuilding some of the supports. He's a consultant for our facility, and I knew exactly what he was talking about. It's not my, you know, expertise. I'm not a transmission line design engineer. I'm a facilities engineer, but I was able to, intelligently be able to communicate with them, anticipate their needs, and it made the project run much smoother. You're going to learn. It's incredible how much we jam into the semester. It's challenging. It's definitely a hard program. But we've got more material than any other provider. We're constantly coming out with new material. Um, the PE exam is difficult, so it takes a level of sacrifice to get through that material. But yeah, it's a great program. I always have a good cohort every semester. The current fall on-demand cohort is no different. And yeah, we have a lot of fun. It's a great program. Any other questions? Anyone nervous about the PE exam? Anyone here heard any rumors? I try to stay on top of the NCEES rumors, my favorite is the repeat rumor of, well, if you didn't pass it the first time, they really want to make sure you should be licensed. So they're going to give you the hardest exam possible. Or any questions about the new specifications that just went live last month, October 2025? If you've seen that, nothing to be worried about. I like the updated specifications. I've always argued, why is engineering economics on a licensing exam for power engineers?
Uh, One of the questions, would you say the new one is, I guess, easier than the old one, like easier in terms of, I guess, material wise?
Yeah, I would say so. It's also more beneficial long term in your career, engineering economics. Why is that even on the FE exam? Having worked in a large facility where the capital group was located a certain amount of budget for big projects. We call them big substations, but for you guys, they were probably very, very small substations. Um, but as an engineer, I didn't make those decisions. I didn't I didn't care about the time value of money. I didn't care about, you know, the financials of this new substation or this capacitor bank for power factor. I didn't care. I just give me the green light, let me build. So those financial decisions were made by the financial group. So I'm happy engineering economics is out. I taught engineering economics at Ryerson University in Canada for a private test prep group years ago. It's not a fun subject to learn. The math is very easy, but it's just so different than electrical engineering. It's a distraction, in my opinion. So I'm happy that's out. Um, my role for a few years was a reliability engineer in a huge plant. It said reliability engineer on my business card. I went to all sorts of certified maintenance professional reliability training by some of the best training groups in the country. And I never used a single formula that used to be in the reference handbook for reliability. Those formulas are not power specific. Typically, it's going to be an industrial engineer looking to optimize the system. And usually, you don't even have the data to apply those formulas. So I'm happy that reliability is out. If you've recently taken the FE exam, you're going to have, you're not even going to have to study for the Boolean algebra portion because that's tested on heavier on the FE exam. Um, don't let Boolean algebra scare you if you haven't taken the FE exam in a long time. It's helpful because, I mean, a lot of times you use Boolean algebra to program protective relays. So whether or not you're a protection engineer, sometimes you got to look behind the scenes to see how a relay is going to operate. Or for me, I was the day-to-day maintenance supervisor for two steam-driven turbo generators in the range of about 50 to 55 megawatts. I think one was ABB, one was General Electric. But it was helpful to know Boolean algebra because I could go into the generator logic, look at how the governor was, interacting with the steam valves and the boiler feed water pumps and any kind of emergency dump valves, that kind of thing. So Boolean algebra, they're not gonna go too far in depth, I don't think. So surface level should be fine for the P exam for that individual subject. And it's helpful. That's what we use nowadays to program modern control devices. So I would much rather teach someone how to read and interpret that versus if a company buys a cement mixer, if they have to pay the minimum amount and interest rates, no, like it's much more on brand for power engineering. So I think it's easier.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Zach, for coming and presenting. I know it's greatly appreciated. Like I said, a lot of us here have taken the course, so we thought it'd be a good opportunity to hear from you of not only what the course offers or what to expect with the PE exam. So thank you for your time and coming.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, appreciate the opportunity, Tyler. Thanks for organizing this. If anyone has questions, feel free to reach out. My email address and my LinkedIn profile handles on the screen, or feel free to even ask your PE study related questions on our online community. I would encourage everyone, at the very least, sign up for the online community, take advantage of that. Download those free samples of our practice exams. It's more study material than most full-length practice exams. And the only other thing, if I wanted to leave you with one thing, is if you haven't taken the PE exam yet, you likely are already familiar with its reputation for being difficult. I would encourage you to completely ignore all of that. Come up with a study plan, commit to a certain number of study hours per week, commit to a certain number of weeks per month, commit to a certain number of months leading up to the exam. Write down your study plan using a calendar, block out the noise, ignore the rumors, and just stick to that plan. That would be my biggest recommendation.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Zach.
My pleasure. See you, Tyler. Goodbye, everybody.
Have a good day.